Hi, this is group two. I'm Bob Hamilton, he, him, and his.
I'm Haley Jimenez, she, her, hers.
I'm Kyle, he, him, his.
And I'm Anna, she, her, hers.
So I think we wanted to kind of open with talking about some specific theses. I know the ones that jumped out to me were thesis 4 and thesis 5. 4 saying that we are living through a crisis of society as a whole and its root cause is capitalism. And then 5 being gender oppression in capitalist societies is rooted in the subordination of social reproduction to production for profit. We want to turn things right side up. So I think that those two really spoke to me because it makes me think a lot about like my own life and my own experiences. Like that. So I was raised by like a single mother, and that you kind of get to see a really different perspective on what money means and how that relates to like the ways in which you struggle, especially like as a woman or as a marginalized group, and that it like you can't escape this idea or this pressure to like be seen as productive or be seen as successful. And that like especially thesis 5, I think a lot about actually a TikTok that I saw that was like, you know, you spend a lot of your 20s, your college years really like freaking out about like, oh my God, I'm going to wake up one day and suddenly I'm going to have a 40-hour work week and I'm going to be miserable and I might not even like the life that I've built. And then the person talked about like, but yeah, because that was never built for you to enjoy. It was very much built on, as they say in this book, the key move to separate making people from making profit, that you're like assigning like the 40-hour work week to the man, to the father, to the breadwinner, and that you leave the woman at home to raise the kids and to have like a 40-hour work week that doesn't drive you nuts. You can't be in anything other than like this heteronormative existence, that if you're not married with kids or if you're not having a nanny or someone to take care of you, how are you building your family? How are you like engaging in the world around you? And it's like just not possible. And it just makes me think so much about like I've lived like my whole life being like driven consciously and unconsciously by like this desire to be productive or this desire to be successful in terms of capital instead of like my own personal passions. And it's just like so crazy to me to think about like, wow, like what was that all for, if not for capital, if not for my own subservience, you know what I mean? So that was kind of what that made me think about. So
It's really relevant today because especially with the COVID pandemic going on, a lot of the burden of like child raising or parenting or online learning goes to the women of the household. And so they're not feeling successful because they're not able to work and, like you said, gain capital and be financially independent because all this burden is going on them to take care of family members or take care of children. So that section was like specific, like particularly relevant when I was reading it.
Yeah, and Haley, your point about this like forced sense of productivity. I was actually going to talk about a TikTok too that I saw, where this guy was talking about when we talk about like painting something or like listening to music, we're like, oh, are you any good at it? Like, can you like? But what does that mean? Like, if I enjoy going on a walk, I'm not going to ask someone, oh, are you any good at walking? Because it's just life. You don't like it's not something that you have to always produce in order to be valued or enjoyed, um, which is like really driven in capitalist societies, as well as tying to structural pieces that continually force this oppression on groups of people, which talks a little bit more about in the module, or not module, thesis 6, which is gender violence takes many forms, all of them entangled with capitalist social relations. We vow to fight them all, where they really talk a little bit more about how these structural oppressions have their effects on people. And I really liked how they connected capitalism to a lot of different areas of oppression and violence, specifically biopolitical, economic, transnational, symbolic, and environmental violence, and how all of those are very deeply interconnected and playing along one another. So all of these things we experience on individual levels are part of a product of an entire system that is working with other structures and powers to continually produce this society. Yeah.
Yeah, and that like makes me think of like the one thing that we've been talking about like literally all semester long, which is like intersectionality, and that like you like to reject capitalism is also in the same breath to like reject like the destruction of the environment, and to like that you can't have one without the other, and that it just speaks to like the whole relationship of like how these things came to be, like that they are so interconnected and you can't like look at one without looking at the other, or like vice versa kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that intersectionality is a great point, and it's a great segue into really what was the overall thought of the book. Feminism for the 99%. When you're talking about 99%, we're talking about very diverse groups of people. And as we've seen just in the feminist movement, it splinters down into, factions that fight each other. And one of the quotes that caught me out of the book was, feminists for the 99% do not operate in isolation from other movements of resistance and rebellion. We do not separate ourselves from battles against climate change or exploitation in the workplace, nor do we stand aloof from struggles against institutional racism and dispossession. So right there, we're talking about, movements like BLM, all kinds of current society coming together, and really as a downfall to capitalism. It's a powerful, powerful thought and statement. There's not a whole lot in the book about how that's going to happen, but this is a call to arms. This is, manifesto is really the basis behind it. Obviously, it hit all of us individually. We thought about how the impacts of this writing and our current existence and lives are alike, but it's about bringing everyone together and putting them on the same side. And I think those individual feelings that we get may be the bridge to do that.
Yeah, exactly. And that like there's like a way that you can talk about these things and like talk about like removing capitalism and stepping back from XYZ kind of thing, and like take that and build something from it. Like that you said, this book kind of does fall a little bit flat in terms of like actual application of like how we can do this, but I think that there's always like a starting point. Like if you're not having the conversation to begin with, how do you then like join together? Like if no one's calling out the elephant in the room, how are we dealing with the elephant in the room kind of thing?
Yeah, and I guess the elephant in the room is probably the right analogy to end this with. We know it's there. How do we move this forward? But we do need to come together. Thanks everyone for your contributions, and a great semester.